You're listening to Season 14 of the Virtual Tailgate, a media bullcrap production covering college football in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I'm Andrew.
I'm David.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jared.
Be sure to join the tailgate on Facebook at Virtual Tailgate or email us at virtualtailgate@mediabullcrap.com.
You know, it has been said by maybe some people on the show that it's not the quantity of the food, but the size of the dump that you have. And you know, depending on what your preference is, that can instill a lot of confidence to be able to admire the size of whatever you excrete from your bodily functions. But you know what else can lead to more confidence? Takova's work boots. Walking taller, feeling confident, and will certainly have you feeling much cleaner than the aforementioned competitive environment that you live in. And it's time now at the end of the season for the Walking Taller, Feeling Taller award show. We're going to skip the game balls, gave all those out last week. We are going to kick it off with the award show this week, kicking off with Andrew on the offense.
All right, well, we got 4 names here listed for offense. I think you guys are going to tell me which one has to ultimately be the winner, but just going to read them off here in no apparent order. We've got Omarion Hampton from UNC, Kevin Jennings from SMU, Kyle McCord from Syracuse, and Cam Ward from Miami. All 4 of these guys have had great seasons, but I think it's pretty obvious Cam Ward was a step above the rest in terms of his statistics for the season overall. Unfortunately, he couldn't quite bring Miami to win at the very end where it counted against Syracuse, and wasn't able to bring them to the ACC championship. Kind of kept them out of the playoffs as well. But Cam Ward had a great
backhanded compliment there.
Hey man,
he had a great season.
Man. Look.
Kind of choked at the end.
Great season, even though he sucked it up.
Look, David supplied us with this clip early on in the season.
I'm the best player in the country. I'm humbly saying that, and I'm confident saying that.
The best player in the country. I mean, should have won the ACC, I think. It's a pretty weak conference. I don't know. Anyway, defense. Jared.
So for defense, we have the one and only from Boston College, defensive end Donovan Ezeiruaku. The defensive end had a fantastic season, 16.5 sacks, 20.5 tackles for loss. A player that was put on the spotlight by many analysts before the season began, and really came through and looks in pretty good shape for the NFL draft if he chooses to go that direction, which all signs seem to be pointing to that way. Runner-up, by the way, was Antoine Powell-Ryland, the defensive tackle from Virginia Tech. Had a fantastic year as well, and he will be hearing his name in the NFL draft probably day one.
That brings us to the Lou Saban Coach of the Year award. I think also named for Mr. Don Brown as well, the Brown Saban Coach of the Year honors. And there's a lot of good contenders this season. So Brent Key at Georgia Tech, his first full season at the helm there, put together a really good campaign, finished the season 7-5, almost pulled off the huge upset over in-state rival Georgia. So Key was definitely a contender. Manny Diaz at Duke, stepping in for Mike Elko after he moved on and really pulling that team together. They lost a lot of talent to the transfer portal, put it together, won 9 games in the regular season. Of course, Rhett Lashley, SMU came in and dominated this league this season, came up just short in the ACC championship game. We'll say a word or two about that here in a little bit, but Lashley had a fantastic season. Other outlets are awarding him the Conference Coach of the Year award, but it appears Jared seems to have made all the picks for us here, and it appears that he has given the award to Syracuse first-year head coach Fran Brown. Brown, these guys were way ahead of schedule in the rebuild up there. They recruited very hard. They played very hard. They gave people fits, won 9 games on the season, finished in a tie for 4th place in the ACC, ranked in the top 25 in the final AP poll. Wonderful campaign. It's good enough to win Coach Brown, the ACC Brown Saban Coach of the Year award. Also, incidentally, you guys may remember that Fran Brown, when he took this job, said that he's a lifer there. He's here to stay. So I imagine soon enough we'll find out how true that is.
So, David, do you know who Jared's pick for Coach of the Year was in the preseason?
Was it Fran Brown?
It was.
Isn't that convenient?
I know. He backed you right into it. But I despite all that, I have to agree. And ACC writers were calling you out. You saw the games just as well as we did. What it like? Yeah, SMU made it to a championship. Woo. Fran Brown, man. Fran Brown.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that that not having Fran Brown, if you were to compare the preseason expectations to where they actually landed, it's hard to argue that that Fran Brown was the ACC Coach of the Year. We may even have a clip for that one. Andrew, you can just pull from the inventory that we've got there as we're heading into our what could be our list of best clips of 2024 here. I don't think we have a sponsor for this one. Maybe it should be the I don't know. Is it the Dabo Swinney best clip of 2024? We seem to have a lot of him. We might need to add a sponsor for this, but we've got actually Andrew played one for his offensive player of the year with the Cam Ward clip. That was a good that was a good one for this year. We also had a particular locomotive clip, Andrew. If you've got that one handy here, we'll let everybody listen to that one.
He clambered up, looked in, and nearly fell off in surprise.
Someone defecate.
That one's always popular. That wasn't the one I had in mind, but maybe
No,
it's not a locomotive.
You told me you were going to do one thing and then it had to be followed by the other. So like,
okay. Well, I was working. Okay, well, I was working into it. We've got. I don't know. Are you okay with what John Cena has to say? Or are we skipping that one? Because we got a lot. We had a lot of that going on this year. Yeah. That was a new favorite of the show. We to add to our wrestling repertoire, bringing in John Cena to aid in the Rock's the Rock's beatdown of the worst teams in the ACC. We got to play that a lot. Condolences to FSU on that one. And but really we had a couple of winners here as we stepped in. We had a certain coach who is no longer after this season in the ACC, who had a great thirst quenching clip in a game earlier this season.
Get some Gatorade, man. Enjoy your day.
And so he got some Gatorade. Well, he's got his Gatorade, and he's actually packing his bags on his way out of Chapel Hill. Will not be here the next season, as he has been mutually, I believe the term is mutually agreed to part ways, which is another way of saying you were going to get fired if you did not agree to the terms of our leave. But he will be maybe hopping on a train heading out of Chapel Hill with another great clip that Andrew found for us at some point during the season.
The doors are closing. Please keep clear and hold on for departure to terminal, ground transportation, and baggage claim.
All right, I think we can all assume that is exactly what Mac Brown will be doing at the end of this season. He will be picking up his bags and packing them up and taking them out of Chapel Hill as he moves on to greener pastures for the remainder of what his career may look like after football. So some good clips that we had this season, but as we move into this, I think there might be some speculation, maybe a little bit of fire, not just smoke, as to who is going to fill those shoes of Mac Brown. Clearly, it has to be somebody younger, right, Jared?
Well, we will talk about that in just a moment, but we do have one more PSA here on the Virtual Tailgate.
Oh, we got a PSA. I totally forgot the.
That's okay. It's kind of a impromptu last minute thing here, but we always do.
Is it PG?
Yeah, what matters is that it's a PSA brought to you by the Virtual Tailgate. As we approach the holiday season with the speed of a digested cup of coffee and a duty-covered toilet seat, let me remind you that you could never spend enough money on your family and friends to earn their love and support. Financial debt is temporary, but your gift recipients remembering your financial sacrifices is less so. As our Lord and Savior said to his disciples, love unto others and ensure you have a gift receipt with your presents, or else I will smite you. The more you know.
Next question.
Andrew, we needed like a Walt Disney jingle there in honor of Jared's Christmas gift to the virtual tailgate.
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know that I have anything like that, but I am really happy with what he's giving us. Like I mean, I hate to say it, guys, but I think mine was more expensive than the rest of y'all's, because I do have to travel farther.
Oh, that's true. Anyway, the news that's been coming down. I don't know why I'm doing a Christopher Walken here. The news that's coming down here in the ACC is a very interesting situation here in Chapel Hill. Bill Belichick, NFL coaching legend, one of the best, if not the best head coach of all time in the NFL, is supposedly very close to becoming the Tar Heels' next head coach. Now, for reasons unknown to us, it makes zero sense. Why would an NFL legend that's a few wins away from being the NFL win leader of all time want to abandon the game that he's so close and only knows to try his hand at college football? Many are saying it's something to do with nepotism, to make sure his son is lined up to be the next head coach at UNC. Although his son could also be working his way up in the NFL as a coordinator through various, options. But it seems like that's not really in play. So it does seem like there is legit possibility here that Bill Belichick will be the next head coach at UNC, a 72-year-old head coach. They just fired a 71-year-old Mac Brown because they, just like thinking the game's passing.
Somebody with more experience.
Yeah, I guess. Just damn. I mean, guys, what do we make of this?
I mean,
it sounds like. Oh, go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
I mean, it seems like just a like there's not been as much movement in the coaching world, I guess, as maybe UNC might have liked. They fired Mac early, I think, to get a jump on things, and now here we are. Like I feel like if you're going to fire a guy a week early, you expect to sign someone by the time everybody else is wrapping up the end of their season, or to have a good shot at where things are going. It seems to me like this is kind of a let's step about, let's see what we can do to get our name in, keep our name in relevance as we move around. And also, as I mentioned to you guys, I think there's something to be said about the fact that that he's showing up, is presenting them with an organizational Bible, as it was called, for how he would like this team to be run and all that sort of stuff. I think that probably plays in pretty well in terms of a program that probably wants a good direction for the future.
Yeah, I think, Andrew, that's well said on both points. That, one thing is that the market is really strange right now for head coaches. There don't seem to be a lot of openings. I think everybody's kind of holding their breath to see with the national settlement and where both NIL and the transfer portal are going to go over the coming year. And I think nobody quite wants to pull the lever on making a move. Even some of the guys that I think UNC may have been targeting, Summerall from Tulane, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, it sounds like all of that has cooled. And so they're going to be looking either at coordinators or other assistant coaches, or going in just a very different, creative, outside the box kind of direction. And it does sound like, it's crazy to me. I never would have imagined that Bill Belichick would actually want the job, but it sounds like he very much does, and would come with a plan to really revolutionize what college football looks like, to take seriously what it means to be a kind of a development program for the NFL. You got to think that could help with recruiting. If guys are, players who have pro potential can come in and be coached by one of the NFL's all-time greats, be in a system that's doing everything from nutrition to financial preparation to game preparation, like everything under a professional model. I think it's kind of exciting. I sort of hope it happens for the sake of interesting, curious things in the ACC. But if you're in North Carolina, I mean, you're just kind of a middling hovering around 500 sort of ACC program. Why not do this if you have the chance?
Yeah, I think everything that you said there, David, makes sense. I think I'm not arguing the intent of North Carolina or the intent of Bill Belichick in pursuing this. I think what concerns me is you take away you take away you can't take away what Bill Belichick did with New England, but you take away Tom Brady and the track record, not all that great. I mean, with him, shopping for the groceries, so to speak, and in college, you're the ultimate shopping for the groceries, right? You're going out, you're recruiting these players, and you're scouting them, and you're trying to convince them to come to your school. And I don't argue that Bill Belichick should be able to have his pretty good pick based on his reputation and everything. But does he have the track record showing that he can actually do that? I think as a UNC fan, you've got to have some, I guess at best, cautious optimism with this, because I'm not sure I trust him as the coach. I'm not sure I trust him to pick the players, quite honestly.
Here's my one question, or my one scenario here. Belichick becomes head coach. He's looking for coordinators. Obviously, it seems like Belichick's going to be on the staff somehow, shape, or form. But, there's another head coach that just retired. And, it could be a bunch of buddies getting back together. One last hurrah, like they used to do in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns. You know who I'm thinking as a coordinator?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban. Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
That may, well, so you can say that won't happen, but that may be the lifeline the ACC needs to stay a relevant conference too, by the way. So I mean, I don't think that's like such a terrible thing for the conference for sure.
Oh, it's not terrible. It'll be great. But
does Saban have a kid who also needs to secure a future in the coaching world?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Unless you count Lane Kiffin.
We're not, David. We're not going down that path.
I was actually thinking, who else Belichick is good friends with is Al Groh. I thought maybe he'd bring Groh out of retirement for this gig.
That could be.
Screw it. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? They could bring Saban out of retirement just because he makes some fantastic these nuts jokes, supposedly.
Okay. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. If this doesn't pan out with Belichick and the Tar Heels go in a more conventional direction, it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of right the ship that way. But I think this feels like kind of pushing all your chips to the middle of the table and just throwing it out there and seeing if it works. I don't think the Tar Heels have a lot to lose. I think that it's sort of a high possible reward here. So I very much hope they go for it. But it's going to be interesting, over the next few days. It sounds like we're going to know what the direction is, and we'll be covering it here on the Virtual Tailgate.
And the one thing we didn't mention before we move on to the bowl games is that the NIL situation with realignment, conference realignment, is still possibility. I think this has some could cause some significant dominoes to just start falling with this type of thought process. Like if this works out, then other colleges can be like, well, maybe we should go after a big name NFL head coach and try and entice them with their program ideals and bring it onto our university. So I think it's definitely it's really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we look ahead at the ACC's bowl slate, I think it'd be helpful to look back for a moment at a conference championship game down in Charlotte on Saturday night that turned out to be quite entertaining. It was back and forth in the sense that Clemson jumped all over SMU early on, got out to a big lead, held it until the beginning of the fourth quarter. They were up 17 going into that fourth quarter, watched it slip away. Kevin Jennings and that SMU offense really got rolling in the fourth period, tied it up with only seconds on the clock, only to see Clemson make this unbelievable, unlikely drive down the field. They got the big kick return. They capitalized on it. And then Nolan Hauser, the true freshman kicker, comes out of nowhere. He's already missed once on the day. He comes out there, boots a career-long 56-yarder as time expires, sending Clemson back into the college football playoff, securing them yet another conference championship, and most important of all, for the purposes of the virtual tailgate, allowing them to finish their last game of the conference slate with exactly 34 points, leaving SMU with 0 championships on the day. And on that note, we look ahead. Guys, we've set a record this season. I believe this is the first time in conference history that we have 13 ACC teams who are bowl eligible, who are still continuing to compete. It's most of the league. We're going to try to do some rapid fire predictions of these. There's really not time to go into depth on most of them. And the truth is, it's hard to know even what to think because of players opting out, things like that, players hitting the transfer portal early. There's just a lot that's uncertain about these matchups. There are some interesting games though, and so we want to carry those as best we can. We're going to start with the Rob Gronkowski Art of Sport LA Bowl. That's the Cal Bears taking on the Running Rebels of UNLV. It looks like all of us are taking UNLV on the money line. Anybody have anything to say about this one?
Cal's not been very good.
Cal's been inconsistent.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting to see Cal favored in this game. UNLV, a team that seems to have played a little bit more of a robust schedule, better record. Cal finished bowl eligible, some close wins, but could have also been sitting at home as well.
Yep, and I'll make it consensus. I think UNLV wins the game. They not only cover the spread right now, it's opening at Cal actually being 1.5 point favorites, but I agree with you guys. UNLV gets the win. And then we're going to do that same thing with the rest of these games. We're just going to go down the list. So, Andrew, you're going to be up first, Jared, Jeff, and then I'll tell you guys why you're wrong. Next game is the Game Above Sports Bowl. I don't know where that's played. It doesn't say that in our spreadsheet here. Doesn't really matter. It's the Panthers of Pitt taking on Toledo. Pittsburgh is a 9.5 point favorite. Andrew.
Yeah. Toledo on the spread. Pittsburgh lost 5 games in a row to end the season.
Make it 6 games. I got Toledo in the money line.
I'm pretty much with both of you on that one. This is a Pitt team that I don't think will play. I think they're going to play a closer game than -9.5.
Nope. You guys are all wrong. Pittsburgh's going to win this game. I don't know if they can actually cover a 9.5 point spread, pretty big, but this is a Pitt team that has something to play for. They are embarrassed that they lost those 5 games to end the season. Pat Narduzzi gets it together and Pitt wins the game.
That's what I said. I just said it was going to be close.
It is kind of funny. Other than Jared, we've all kind of got a similar hedge. It's just that David went with the money line instead of Toledo and the spread on it.
Next up, I do know where this game's being played. This is the Birmingham Bowl. Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt, 2 teams that pulled off some major upsets during the season. Really, both of them, by their standards, had a good campaign. They ended up in a bowl matchup that I doubt either of them is very excited about. But nonetheless, Georgia Tech comes into this one as 2.5 point favorites.
Yep, and they're going to cover those 2.5 points.
Vanderbilt has been struggling at the end of the season. Georgia Tech has been very competitive. Georgia Tech spread.
Yeah, Jared basically summed it up. I mean, Georgia Tech to end the season could beat Georgia, and they did beat Miami. In addition to sandwiching a NC State victory. So 2 teams in opposite directions going to the end of the season.
Clean sweep. Yeah, Georgia Tech's been good football. Vandy's been up and down. They've had some real highlights this year. Did not finish all that strong. I haven't seen the transfer portal numbers for them, but Vanderbilt feels to me like a team that's going to lose some talent because they've really gotten they kind of had a higher profile than they might usually. I bet that there are some teams gunning for some of that talent. Next up, the DirecTV Holiday Bowl. This is the Syracuse Orange. We talked about our virtual tailgate coach of the year, Fran Brown, leads them into action against the Cougars of Washington State. Syracuse opens as 6.5 point favorites.
Syracuse money line. I have no idea if Kyle McCord's playing, but Fran Brown will get his team to a win regardless.
This is more in the Colin McCord situation. If he plays, I think Syracuse wins. If not, yeah, I would flip that pick. But this is on the assumption that Kyle is playing.
As I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm actually a little bit hesitant on my spread pick. Not because I doubt Syracuse, but because I actually just don't think they blow teams out like they should. So I'm actually gonna on the fly here. I'm gonna flip mine. Jared, you can have your Syracuse spread. I'm gonna flip mine on the fly to Syracuse in the money line.
All right. And I'm taking Syracuse on the money line as well. I think they win. It might be a close game. My favorite thing about this matchup is just the fact that if you look at the standings for the Pac-12 conference, Washington State finished the season 8-4. It was really a good campaign for them. But they finished second in the Pac-12 with an 0-1 record compared to Oregon State's 1-0, which is just always cracks me up every time I see it. Next up, a game that I really am kind of excited about. This is the Wasabi Fenway Bowl being played up in Boston. And this is where the Tar Heels of North Carolina are going up against the UConn Huskies. UConn, I don't know if you guys have kind of been keeping up with UConn, but they really have put together a strong campaign, strongest season they've had in many years, finished the season 8-4, playing some really good football, going up against the North Carolina team that has not been playing good football to finish the season. And the Tar Heels open at 6.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I'm taking UConn to cover that spread. I think this is a decent chance UConn wins, but holding out hope for North Carolina to win one for the MAC.
Listen, I had UConn money line and I changed my last minute. I think the Huskies have had a great year. 8-4 is very impressive, but I just do think UNC does have more talent and can make it tight.
Yeah, I think slightly different take here. I think that that North Carolina is going to win this game, going to win one. I assume Mac Brown is coaching this last game. I know he coached the last game of the season.
I think he's not. I thought he was.
Oh, is he not? Is he not coaching this one? Okay, so either way, it probably doesn't matter at the end of this. Since who knows what these rosters are going to look like. I think that you have to look at UConn. Definitely nothing against their 8-4 record on the season. I think a lot of that goes into who they played in that conference. I think North Carolina pulls this one out. I am just not confident that they pull it out by the 6.5.
All right, before I make my pick, I need to clarify, Jared, what did you pick? Because I think I heard you say you're changing your pick because you think North Carolina is going to keep it close. But North Carolina are favored to win this by a touchdown.
You're right. Yeah, I had UConn money line, so I changed it to UConn spread.
Okay. All right. I think UConn's going to win the game. So give me them on the money line, regardless of who's coaching or playing for North Carolina. It's a good Connecticut team. I think they get the win. Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Now we're in the Bronx, and we got Boston College taking on the Cornhuskers of Nebraska. Both of these seem to be power conference teams that are on the rise, teams that are moving in the right direction after spending some time in the wilderness. Nebraska opens this game as 2.5-point favorites.
Yeah, give me the teapot on the money line. He was my my early preseason pick for Coach of the Year. Did not pan out, but I've held out secret hope for Boston College, and of course it makes us sad every week that we haven't been able to play this more often.
Come on, you damn bird! Come and get me!
Yeah, I got Boston College as well. Nebraska's had a surprisingly nice bounce back year, but I do think B.O.B. will have his team right in his close neck of the woods. Instead of being in Boston, he's in New York City.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me. Boston College surprisingly finished out the season 7-5. Finished out the season very strong, even with that 7-5 record. They had a couple of close losses in those last 5 that they were competitive in. So they could have even had a better record than that. Nebraska conversely stumbled down the stretch. Just there's something, for some reason, I can't quite. There's something that's inconsistent about this Boston College team. I can't quite buy into them in this. So I'm gonna have to defer to Nebraska and the -2.5 on this one.
That's what I've picked too. And BC, I think, did finish the last month of the season. They had better results than Nebraska did. I also don't quite trust BC, and I can't explain why. I mean, some of it is losing their quarterback. I don't know. I just like Nebraska in this. I think in part because the Big Ten is a stronger league, and so you can have a worse record there but be a better team. I think we may see that play out in this one. Give me Nebraska. Give the 2.5 points. All right, now here's the granddaddy of them all. It's the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the only bowl where the winning team gets to eat the mascot for the game. And this is where the Miami Hurricanes are going to be playing. Big time disappointment given where they were hoping to be. But they're going up against a team that is also disappointed. Iowa State actually had the opportunity. They played for the Big 12 championship, came up well short against Arizona State. This is the consolation for them. This game is basically a pick-em. Iowa State -1.
Yeah, I'm taking Miami to win this game. I do believe we already got confirmation that Cam Ward is going to be playing in the game. Also, the game opened, depending on where you look at your opening lines, at the -1, and I'm even seeing -2.5 as an opening for ISU on ESPN. But it's definitely migrated over to now a 3.5 point favorite in Miami's terms. So since we use opening lines, it feels like easy money to take Miami on the money line here.
Common sense says I should switch over, but I'm going to stay put. Iowa State money line. Why not? I think Miami will just come out flat and not be really willing to play.
Yeah, this is one where I think it looks to be an evenly matched game, kind of across the board, records, the rankings, everything else. And I think when we go to that, you have to defer to who's going to be the best player on the field. And if we're confirming that Cam Ward is indeed, as of this podcast, planning to play in that game, he's the best player on the field. If it's this evenly matched, that's where the edge goes. Miami on the money line.
Yep, that's exactly.
I'm the best player in the country. I'm humbly saying that, and I'm confident saying that.
I mean, come on.
You heard the man. They're not going to lose this one. Miami gets the win. Cam Ward's eating Pop-Tarts afterward. Next up, we're going to Annapolis, Maryland for the Go Bowling Military Bowl. NC State Wolfpack kind of stumbled their way into bowl eligibility with a record on the season of 6-6. They're taking on in-state rival, the Pirates of East Carolina. NC State began as 5-point favorites in this one.
David says stumbled their way in. We know that it's a carefully crafted schedule, first in the ACC schedule, that makes sure that you can suck in the ACC and still get to a bowl game every year. That is NC State's strategy for getting there. Does not mean that they are going to have a winning record on the year, though, because they're going to lose to East Carolina. I'm taking East Carolina on the spread here, giving NC State ever so slightly much wiggle room, but I really just think they're going to lose.
Baby, give me the ECU Pirates with the spread.
Like, you okay there, Jared? Were you having a stroke? Were you stroking out? Yeah. So Andrew, I almost thought you were going to flip your pick or change your pick there for ECU there for a second.
All right, I'll do it. I'll do it.
You doing it?
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. I mean, I'm not forcing you or anything. But I think that this is an NC State team that has just barely hung on most of the season. The offense has not been that spectacular. The defense is a much more susceptible than we're historically used to seeing with from a Dave Doran team. I think that ECU comes out and takes advantage of that and comes out with a straight up win.
Anytime I'm trying to decide how to gamble away Jared's mortgage money, one of my principles is if I've got two mediocre teams going up against each other, always take the points. That's what I'm going to do in this one. Give me East Carolina +5. I think Andrew and Jeff are right. Pirates have a very good chance of winning this thing outright, but I could imagine it being a close competitive game. Maybe NC State squeaks out a 2 or 3 point win, but I think ECU covers that spread. Up next, this is the game that we're sending Jared on location to cover for us in his favorite town in the country, El Paso, Texas. It's the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. This is where the ACC will be represented by the Louisville Cardinals going up against last year's national runners-up in the Washington Huskies. Louisville opens as a 5-point favorite.
I'm taking Louisville on the money line here, mostly just because I have been uncertain of their prospects throughout the whole season. But I feel pretty good about them definitely securing the victory.
I got Louisville in the spread, but don't be surprised if neither team takes the field due to Montezuma's revenge.
Now, is that from what they ate when they got there, or on the way, like some bad Taco Bell? Or?
Yeah. Let's just say
keep it going.
There's a reason why they call it Al Piso out of your.
Oh, come on! It's a lovely town. It's a lovely town. No disrespect. No disrespect. I have got for Louisville. I've got them Louisville -5 on this. This is one where I think Louisville is better in this case, and I believe there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. And when there's going to be a lot of points, it doesn't always work out that way. But I feel like the spread is going to just naturally grow a little bit. So, given the number of points I think that are going to be scored, I think Louisville wins. I think they win by close to a touchdown.
Yeah, I like the Cardinals a lot in this one. Some of it comes down to who wants to be there the most. And you got a Louisville Cardinals team they're hungry. They're still building. They're working towards something. Going up against a Washington team that they've crashed and burned, lost their coach, lost a lot of momentum from that playoff team a year ago. I don't think that's who's want to be there. I think Louisville wins this one going away. Next up, this is the largest spread of any of our bowl games. It's Duke going to take on Ole Miss, the Rebels, in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Ole Miss comes into this one as 14-point favorites.
Yeah, and because of that ridiculously large spread, I'm taking Duke to cover just because, that's a mistake. That's just a bunch of people who really like Ole Miss keeping that spread, betting on that side, keeping it up. I'm taking Duke. Duke has definitely played their way into relevance once again, despite coaching changes. Once again, they're still a high quality team, 9-win team. I don't know that they're going to come out on top against Ole Miss, but I do know that they're not going to lose by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think Duke is going to be fine. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they'll cover.
Well, I think for this, the issue is the entering of Malik Murphy into the transfer portal, right? Because he's basically not going to play in this game. I wouldn't assume. I mean, if you're entering the transfer portal, I can't imagine you're planning on playing in your team's bowl game. And I think that's why this spread has ballooned so much. And we've seen times, I think, that Malik Murphy is probably the key cog in that offense. I am not sure what Duke's offense is able to do with a backup quarterback on just a couple of weeks of practice. So I think that's the danger zone here. I think that's why the spread is so big. It would have probably still been Ole Miss favored before, but I think that they definitely are going to win this game.
Yeah, I think that's a spot on take, Jeff. I think it comes down to who's competing in this one. Without Malik Murphy, Duke is in trouble. Ole Miss is more talented anyway. I think I'm taking them on the money line. I will not be surprised if they end up covering that big spread. I think they're a lot better than Duke is right now, but we'll find out.
I can't believe that y'all are discounting Henry Bellin IV's one completion on one attempt for 7 yards. That's obviously the mark of an amazing backup starter.
Listen, man, if you do that every play, you're going to win the game.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Just replicate that about 60 more times. He's going to lead them to a victory. All right. Next up, last but not least for the regular bowl games, it's Charlotte. It's the Duke's Mayo Bowl. We've got the Virginia Tech Hokies. They got into bowl eligibility the last week of the season. Their reward is taking on Minnesota in this one. Golden Gophers come into it 4.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I've got to take Tech at least on the spread. I hope with all my heart that Tech wins this game.
Jesus Lord. Minnesota, I think, is going to be more willing to play this game. Virginia Tech is just going to be out there, but I think the Hokies do have the better talent. I got the Hokies covering the spread.
I've actually got Virginia Tech straight up on the money line for the win in this game. I think that there was something that we saw in that well, depending on your perspective, that disaster of a game that the Cavaliers played the Saturday after Thanksgiving. That was a new dynamic offense that the Hokies had that I don't think they'd had pretty much the entire season. Now, some of that is the Cavaliers' defense not very good, but there was a different pop to it, and I believe that, call me crazy, there may be something there for them to start building off of at the end of this season, heading into next season. And I'm wondering, you give the fact that there's not a lot of tape on, there's really just that one game, not a lot of tape to go off of. I think that Virginia Tech has a chance to come out in this game and really put on a show in this bowl game.
Yep, I see it the same way. I think the Hokies are the better team in this one. It's going to show on the scoreboard by the end of it. I just hope that by all of us picking the Hokies in this one, I hope we haven't jinxed them.
Yeah, I know.
That'd be a shame.
We'd be so upset.
You'd hate to see it.
But even more. All right, boys. It was not easy, and it wasn't clear until the last minute, but the ACC is sneaking 2 teams into the inaugural 12-team playoff.
Wait. Do they know this? Like the CFB? Like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
Well, evidently, this is what's incredible to me. So what I'm hearing is that the SEC teams are complaining. This is a sign that you should never play anybody good in the non-conference because you could get losses. But do you know who Alabama played in their non-conference schedule this year? They played Mercer.
Mm-hmm.
They played Western Kentucky.
Powerhouses.
They played, I don't know who the other scrub they played was. And then they played a 5-7 Wisconsin team. So they're threatening not to schedule these marquee non-conference matchups. I don't know what we'll do without Bama versus Mercer next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's acting like they think the whole loss to Oklahoma, the 66 Oklahoma football team, was the reason why they got left out. I mean,
South Florida.
Well, they put up 3 points in that game. I mean,
yeah.
What more could you want?
That's shit about no.
Well, and I think, like we talked about last week, the precedent that it would have set to punish SMU for losing a close conference championship game, it would have been unbelievably bad. So I think the committee made the right decision, but I know there was pressure to do something else. So what we've got the Mustangs of SMU in as the 11 seed, and we've got Clemson, the ACC champion automatic bid earners, as the 12 seed. So the first of those matchups we're going to see are SMU traveling on the road to Happy Valley. They come in as 8-point underdogs against the Penn State Nittany Lions in this one.
Yeah, so I think like a good portion of the group here, I'll kick us off with saying that I've got SMU to cover the spread. SMU has really played well in its inaugural season in the ACC. The big knock against them, of course, is that the 2 teams that they played that were ranked in the ACC before they got to the conference championship game were teams that showed themselves to not be, of rankable quality by the end of the season. They beat Pitt in the start of Pitt's 5-loss skid there. And they beat Louisville, who, it's not terrible, but definitely didn't end up as a top 25 ranked team. When they faced what we would consider actual competition in the ACC and Clemson, they ultimately came up just short. That strikes me as, and particularly for SMU, a team that's been building itself back up to relevance generally over the last few decades, that strikes me as a team that will be ready to show up to come and play against even a Penn State team that is very highly ranked. And so I expect them to keep this close. I think that the -8 is apt. Like they could lose this by a whole touchdown and still cover that spread, but I definitely expect this not to turn into a blowout on SMU side, if only for the way that SMU roared back at the end of the game against Clemson.
I pretty much, you nailed it, Andrew. SMU is a very good football team. I think we have found that out as the season progressed. Yes, you can argue the strength of schedule. You can make that statement. You can make that statement pretty much for every one of these teams if you look at their out-of-conference scheduling. At least at least SMU battled BYU and they took them down to the wire. And yes, I know BYU kind of faltered at the end of the season, but so be it. SMU did pretty much all they could to be relevant in their conference this year. And the fact that they were almost punished for losing that conference championship game on a 50-plus yard field goal, it would have been asinine. So I'm glad that that's been done and that's correct. Now they have to go down to Happy Valley go up to Happy Valley and Penn State, and that's not going to be an easy matchup. But the thing is, if there's a team that I think SMU can beat and have a good shot at, it's this team right here. Penn State does have flaws. They have a quarterback that is not exactly the most accurate at times, and let's be honest, James Franklin sometimes seems to disappear in the bigger moments of the football game, and this is going to be a big moment. Home crowd, first college football playoff game, in that type of atmosphere. Happy Valley for Penn State, a lot riding for James Franklin, and actually, quite honestly, probably his whole how he'll be remembered up there at this point of his career. I think Penn State does hold on to win, but I think this game is very close.
Yeah, I think a lot of what comes down to this game is which team ends up showing up from Penn State side. Is it the defense? They gave up 7 against Maryland and 10 against Purdue and 6 against Washington. And if that's the case, then SMU's probably in trouble from the -8 perspective, because this Penn State offense can put up some points, but they can also give up some points occasionally, in games as well. And I once again we're splitting hairs on this. I believe Penn State ends up winning this game. I think it would surprise me if SMU pulled off the total upset, but with the amount of offensive potential that SMU team has and has had over the course of the season, similar in its own way to a couple of games before where we were talking about the high scoring nature and the spread growing, I think that SMU keeps this game close because they're able to, even if Penn State's defense plays a solid game, they're able to put up enough points, backdoor cover, come up, one of those deals where they score late to get within a single score late in the game and cover that -8.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a game that feels like it's strength on strength. You've got this SMU offense is lethal. They are top 5 offense in terms of scoring in the whole country, and they're going up against a Penn State defense that ranks 8th in scoring in points allowed this season. So it's strength on strength in this one. When that happens, I fall back on who's the more talented squad, top to bottom. I think, unfortunately, that's Penn State. I don't know that SMU has seen anything quite like what the Nittany Lions can throw at them. This is a team that's better than the Clemson team that gave SMU fits. I think Penn State's at home here, hosting this college football playoff game. I think you see them get the job done. I'll take Penn State. I'll give the points. I think this is a big 2-score win for the Nittany Lions. And then that brings us to our final ACC college football playoff game of the first round. And that's going to be the Clemson Tigers traveling to Austin to keep things weird and take on Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns. This is a game where Texas comes in as major favorites. Not a lot of respect for the ACC, especially in these two playoff matchups. 10.5 is the opening line.
I think you guys should go first.
Okay, well, I'll jump in. Listen, Clemson's had a great comeback season at this point. It looks like they were down and out, then they clawed their way back in. They had Miami lose to Syracuse, let them get in on the back door, and with a miraculous kick in the ACC title game, win the conference title and earn that playoff berth against Texas. Texas, for whatever reason, fumbled the bag against Georgia in their conference championship game. Twice, yeah. So, is it a blessing or a curse that Clemson doesn't have to face Georgia, but instead gets to face Texas? That's a good question. Because at the end of the day, Texas does have more talent than Clemson, but does Texas have more mental capabilities than Clemson? And I think that's what's going to come down to. I think this is going to be a game of mental toughness, of overcoming the mistakes that were had by Texas in their previous game, and Clemson can exploit them. Dabo, this is not Dabo's first rodeo. He's done this before. He's going to be ready, but he'll also know that in terms of talent, this team is outmatched. And I think at the end of the day, Clemson will make it close, but Texas will find a way to pull away in the fourth. And I think because of that, I will have Clemson in the spread, but I do see Texas pulling off the win.
Well, I wasn't sure at first if Jared was calling one of the teams stupid, like with the.
Oof,
Yeah,
no.
I was like, where is he going here? He's like, it's about the mental acuity of the teams. I was like, whoa, where are we going here? But speaking of going here, I am going to be I'm going out on a bit of a limb here, especially with the rest of the group. I'm going to take Texas minus the 10.5 here. We talked a bit during the season about how the ACC is all fun and games until they have to play other conferences. Clemson definitely made a great recovery from that embarrassment that they suffered in the opening week against Georgia. Squeaked by just the skin of their teeth on the with the field goal in the conference championship game to get themselves into this position. I worry that maybe it's because of the past history in some of these playoff games. I worry this is where the veil comes off of the ACC, and they end up being shown that even the best teams in the conference are not up to the caliber of the best teams in the SEC. So that's really my concern. I've got Texas minus 10.5 in this.
You know what, though? I mean, I think that Texas is the superior team here. But when I look back over their resume, they really haven't done a lot to demonstrate that. I mean, they've won the games they were supposed to win. But really, the two marquee matchups they had this season, their two toughest games, they came up short both times against Georgia. And I'm just not sure. I think Texas can win this game. They're at home. They're a strong team. They can win. I'm not sure I see any universe where they're 2 scores better than Clemson, where a 10.5 point spread is something I want to touch. And so give me the Clemson plus 10.5 in this one. I think Cade Klubnik has really gotten stuff together. I mean, you saw it there in that conference championship game. Yes, they let a lead slip away, but they came out hungry in that game, looked way better than most people were expecting. I think there's a fire lit under this team. I also think Clemson's going to be playing pretty loose. They don't have much to lose in this. And what we've seen with Dabo in the past is when he comes into the playoffs as an underdog, he is tough to beat. I think Clemson comes in here. I don't know if they actually pull off the upset, but they certainly cover the spread.
I do. Clemson's pulling off this upset. Clemson's you guys were obviously not as inspired by Dabo's speech as I was, but man, like this team is going to be loose and ready to take on Texas. And in fact, since the further ask was, what do you think is going to happen to a team if you say an ACC team is going to win? Clemson is playing for a lot more than you might think because they're basically playing for a home game in the next round. They get to go to the Peach Bowl against Arizona State. I know Arizona State gets to get listed as the home team there, but man, that's a sweet second round to go for. I would take Clemson all the way to the Cotton Bowl Classic in early January before I'm not sure that I believe that they would make it past Oregon or the winner of Tennessee, Ohio State. But I gotta say, I do think that Clemson's got this one covered. So give me Clemson on the money line here.
I love it. I hope you're right.
Hey, once I saw the Peach Bowl, I was like, that's it. That's the trigger right there.
That's me, man.
Yeah. All right.
And as Dabo said, that the media is going to hate that. First
the media is going to hate that. Clemson's going to hate that even more.
Bunch of people going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, that is it for the virtual tailgate. You can send your questions or comments or who you think is going to take it all the way from the ACC this year to virtualtailgate@mediabullcrap.com.
And always remember these 3 rules. Never get less than 12 hours sleep.
Never play cards with a guy that has the same first name as the city.
And never get involved with a woman with a tattoo of a dagger on her body.
Stick to that. And everything else is cream cheese.
That's ball game.
Ah, we should have sang some Christmas songs to conclude this podcast. Yeah, well.
I like how no one jumped in on that.